Hi, this is Annie of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Thank you so much for joining us today for Live with Annie. As usual, we've started the stream a bit early. This helps us get everything set up and broadcasting properly to our various platforms. You can find a countdown clock on the screen showing how long it will be until we actually go live. While you wait, please connect with us and other viewers in the chat. Let us know where you are from and whether you're a new or longtime viewer. We'll see you live soon! Thanks again for joining us for Live with Annie. We are so happy to have you with us today. While you wait for the program to start, we hope you'll enjoy the content playing on screen. There's so much inspiration, so take a moment to tell us what you love in the chat. Don't forget there is a countdown clock on the screen so you know how long until we go live. Hi, it's Annie again, reminding you that we'll be going live with this week's episode shortly. There is a countdown clock on the screen showing how much time is left. You've got just enough time to grab some water or a beverage of your choice and a snack, and to connect with us in the chat. We'd love to hear what you've been working on this week. back to remind you that we'll be starting this week's live very shortly. We've got a really fun episode planned for today, and we'll see you soon. Hi, I'm Annie of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 37 of Season 4 of Live with Annie. Thank you to everyone who participated in our Bosom Buddies sew-along last week, making these handy seatbelt cushions for yourselves and others. We really appreciate your efforts. We sewists and quilters love to help and use our skills to make a difference, but we don't always have the knowledge of where our efforts might make the most impact. So today we're talking about sewing for charity and sharing ways that you can help, from sewing and making to donating money or supplies. Whether you are a regular viewer or brand new to Live with Annie, we welcome you and thank you for joining us. We know that there are so many things you could be doing with this time, and the fact that you've made time to be with us really means a lot. If you enjoy these episodes, please follow us wherever you are watching. And if you know someone else who might enjoy the show, please tell them about Live with Annie. Just tag them here and they can watch it too. Also, we love hearing from you, so please share your thoughts and any info about charitable sewing opportunities that you know of. And add your questions in the chat and we will try to answer them before we wrap up. Last week, Casey kicked off our annual SewPINK initiative, and I joined you virtually for a Bosom Buddy sew-along. If you missed that episode or want to watch it again, remember that you can find all the previous 174 episodes of Live with Annie on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, or at ByAnnie.com. And Jake will put up all the links to make them easy for you to find. So, each October we celebrate Breast Cancer Awareness Month during our SewPINK initiative. Our goals are to raise awareness, encourage people to get their screenings, come together as a community, and donate to breast cancer research. To help raise awareness and share the fun, remember to check out the SewPINK blog hop, which is going on throughout the month of October. We are joined by lots of talented designers with posts daily. And you can find the blog hop easily just by going to SewPINK or ByAnnie.com, and right at the top you'll see a link to go to the SewPINK page. And once you get there, you can click on the button for the calendar page and then any of the images to take you straight to those projects. Remember, if you find value in these blog posts or any of the other things that we're doing during this month, please help us raise funds for breast cancer research. We have established a team to raise money for the Breast Cancer Research Foundation, and you can donate there. Funds go to advance research so that we can save lives and improve outcomes. So think about one of the patterns that we've given to you free during this month, or tutorial, what it's worth to you, and know that even a $10 donation will go a long way to help. Many of you joined us last week to make Bosom Buddy, a handy seatbelt cushion to protect tender areas when wearing a seatbelt. Several also made the mastectomy pillows using the free pattern that Shannon Fabrics shared. both of these projects would be wonderful to share with others who are facing breast cancer and other illnesses. And some of you asked about who to contact if you made them and would like to donate them. So my first suggestion would be that you check with your local medical community. Find a local cancer center, a hospital, or even a clinic, and ask if they would like donations. For example, the last time I was at the hospital for my Prolia shot, I noticed that the infusion center had a basket of really simple seatbelt pads sitting in the lobby, and it had a note on it for patients to help themselves. I showed them one of our Bosom Buddies and asked if they'd like to share some of those, and they happily accepted them. So that's one way to do it. If viewers have any other ideas, please share them in the comments, and we will be sure to let other makers know about those opportunities too. There are so many opportunities to serve and help our local or global community. And although we focus on breast cancer awareness during the month of October, the need is never restricted to certain illnesses or days or places. So today we are going to talk about sewing for charity and discuss ways that you can help. Joining us is Amy Smart, a quilter, author, and designer. Amy's style blends traditional quilting with a modern twist. She has written a book, published over 25 patterns, and is a fabric designer for Riley Blake Designs. Amy loves spreading her passion for quilting and making it accessible to everyone. Since 2008, Amy has been the voice behind the blog Diary of a Quilter, where she shares her favorite projects, easy tutorials, and fresh patterns to inspire quilters of all skill levels. In September, Amy published a very informative post about ways to help if you want to sew for charity. So I have invited Amy to join me today to tell us more. Welcome, Amy.
Hello, thanks so much for having me, Annie.
Oh, thank you for coming. It's such a pleasure to meet you and to have you join us again, so thank you. Before we get started talking about sewing for charity, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself, where you live, your family, how you spend your days? We would love to get to know you better.
Sure, you bet. So I live in Utah, south of Salt Lake City, in the Wasatch Mountains, and I've grown up here, and it's still a place that I love. I love hiking, and I have 4 kids, and growing up, we hit all of the Utah national parks, and just have enjoyed that stage of our lives. And now I've just had my youngest graduate from high school, and he's moved out, so I'm kind of at a new stage of life, which is actually really fun. So I love my adult kids, and I love having them come around and be around. We had a lot of time together before this youngest moved out, and now I'm just getting used to more time on my hands. But I am not sad, nor am I bored. I have plenty that I love to keep me busy, especially sewing and running my business. So I feel lucky that I already had those things built in I'm not feeling the void as much.
That's really wonderful. I remember when my kids graduated and moved out, I really never had that empty nest depression that so many people talk about. It's like,
Yep.
Yay, now I can do all these
Yeah.
things. And that's basically when I started ByAnnie. So I didn't have that totally going before they left, but it was wonderful to have the time to devote to that. So I was really impressed. Yeah, you're learning.
You go ahead.
I was really impressed to see that you have been blogging since 2008. That is a lot of writing and a lot of sharing.
Okay.
And I thought your September post about charity sewing had so much good information. And we are going to put a link to it in the description for today's episode. So a lot of the links that you're talking about will be all in there so that people can find those. But I'm curious to know what inspired you to write that post about sewing for charity, and why is this such an important topic for you?
Well, it's kind of timely right now. Anytime there's some type of natural disaster or conflict, we're looking for ways to help. And I think quilters and makers and sewists they just have giving hearts. They love to create with their hands, and goodness knows we create more than we need for ourselves, and it feels good to share what we've made with other people. So I just wanted to write and share some suggestions of ways that we can create and make a difference in other people's lives. There's just so many ways we can do it. So I'm excited to talk about that today.
That's awesome, and such a good perspective on what makes us do that. I know that there are many of us looking for meaningful ways to get back. So what are some of the ways that you recommend for people who want to donate or volunteer?
Well, I would recommend, even before we tend to take action when we see big events happen, but there's so many local needs in our own communities. Our own communities are a great place to start, and there's great ways to find local needs. There's websites called justserve.org, Idealist, or Create the Good. You can just Google those. And those sites allow you to put, and those links will be in the general link that Annie's going to share. They allow you to put in your zip code, and they will bring up local needs, local service projects right in your own community and ways you can make a difference there. And so that is a really fun way, because a lot of times you'll discover ways that you didn't even think of. But other really simple ideas include like you mentioned, checking with your local hospital or medical community, local shelters, and schools. Schools are always, I volunteered last year with my son's high school, where there was a group of moms who had service projects once a week in the library during lunch, and they just needed help, or they needed donations. So there's so many ways in your local community. Another great one is local refugee support organizations. They're helping people set up housing or teaching them new skills. And another one that I thought of is even your local police station. In our community, we have something called a Children's Justice Center, which is if a child is a victim of a crime, they can come to this safe place, and it's more conducive to interviewing a child than a police station. And often they provide stuffies or blankets as comfort to help them overcome this trauma that they need to talk about. And so there's so many places in your local community that are in need of handmade comfort.
Those are all such good ideas. And I know, like, our local guild makes a lot of quilts for charity, and one of the places where they take them is the Dove Center, where the women go when they're escaping abuse, but also just to the police department, so that if they, or if they have a child that comes in, they've got something to give them, a quilt that they can wrap them in and make them feel comfort right away. Another one that I thought of as you were saying that too is the Dementia Center. We have a place here, and they do crafts regularly, so they're always looking for someone to come and help, facilitate that to happen.
Yeah.
Lots of ways. I was really intrigued when I saw the list, so I went to, I think it was Idealist, and typed in my address, or my zip code is what you put in, and there were everything from parking cars at the PGA Tour that's coming up, to knitting hats for the homeless and making hygiene kits, things that I had never thought of. So I was really impressed to see all the things that were available in my community too. So for people who
such a great resource.
It really was. I had never heard of it before, so I was interested to see that. For people who like to sew and make in particular, do you have specific suggestions for places that they can help there?
I do. There are some great organizations that work on a national level, and a lot of times they even have local chapters so that you can reach out. So some of those include, and you might be familiar with them, like Project Linus is a great one that provides handmade blankets for children in need, like, again, hospitals, or just lots of ways. They're really great at getting those into your local community. Quilts of Valor is a great one. They supervise making quilts for service members and veterans. Days for Girls is another one that it has chapters throughout the country. They're providing handmade hygiene period kits for girls in underdeveloped communities, like not only outside the United States, but also within our communities. And a local favorite, new one that's new to me, is an organization called Wrap the World in Quilts. And you can Google that, or the link will also be in this post. They're a community of quilters that saw a need after the invasion of Ukraine, and have been and ever since then they started by sending quilts to Europe. Now they send them worldwide and provide them for the local community. They will take quilt tops. If you have quilt tops that you're just never going to finish, they will take them and finish them. They set up quilt tying events, things like that. So there's just a handful, and there's more in that post, but there's a couple that come to mind off the top of my head.
Right. Those are really awesome. And I noticed, I think it was the Wrap the World in Quilts one, had a quilt counter up at the top. And when I checked a few days ago, they had already donated over 48,000 quilts to that.
Amazing.
So that was
and
pretty
that's
impressive.
in about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Super amazing.
It was really amazing. Go ahead, go down. So yeah, lots of great ideas. So it's really wonderful that there's so many options, and I know that people appreciate knowing they can make a difference, whether it's local or national or worldwide. Can you share a little bit more about what to consider or what goes into making a quilt for charity? Do you recommend specific patterns, or are there fabrics that work better than the others? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a really great question. I would recommend just keeping it simple. They don't need to be really complex. Like, we're providing comfort and warmth. It doesn't need to be like an heirloom quality applique quilt, something like that. Just something really simple. And I recommend like durable fabrics, 100% cotton, or just something that's going to last and wear a little bit longer. But before you make and donate anything, I definitely recommend checking with the organization where you're going to donate, because they might have specific guidelines or specifications. Like, I know some organizations they want tied quilts, but they don't want the yarn ties that stick up. They just want the ties that are embedded in the quilt layers. So things like that. Definitely check with the organization before you just show up with an armload of hats or quilts or, what have you.
That is really a good idea, especially for people who might be newer to quilting. But it does sound like charity quilting is really accessible to quilters no matter what level they are at.
Yes, I agree. And even there's a lot of really beginner friendly projects that are perfect, like pillowcases, receiving blankets. I have a neighbor who just makes really simple 1 yard, 2 yards of fabric sewn envelope style receiving blankets that go to local hospitals, and it can be really, really simple. Even like the tied fleece blankets, that's a great way to let kids get involved, because it's a simple way that's non-sewing even, that they can contribute and help.
Right.
So I would say simple, practical, usable.
Yeah, and that's such a great way to get kids involved with giving and sharing their talents. And it always makes them so proud when they can make something that helps somebody else. So giving through our craft is such a special way to connect with others. One other charity that I want to mention is Quilts for Kids. This is a nonprofit organization that is really dedicated to transforming fabric into patchwork quilts to comfort kids who are facing serious illnesses, trauma, abuse, natural disasters, all of those things. And we spoke with Linda Arie, who is the founder of this amazing organization, on Live with Annie earlier this year when we were debuting the QT Fabrics Delightful Dreams, which is donating all the proceeds to Quilts for Kids and other organizations. And Linda joined us on that episode. It's season 4, episode 24, and you can learn more about it. Since I have very little time to sew and I have more fabric than I could use in probably 100 lifetimes, I was really happy to learn about the ability to just donate fabric to Quilts for Kids. And I'm sure there are other organizations who would also appreciate fabric donations. Do you have any suggestions for that?
Yeah, a lot of those national organizations that we talked about, Quilts of Valor, Days for Girls, those Project Linus, they will take donations. They're always looking for fabric donations. I have a list of a bunch more organizations throughout the country, and ones that people have suggested in their own communities that's on that post about where to donate fabric. And I know that you're planning to share that. So there's a bunch more there. But again, I would also check schools are, like, if you have fabrics that, we all have more fabric than we need. It's a good way to contribute without having to feel like you have to make something. There's other people who are willing to make things. Schools need it for home ec or theater departments. like you mentioned, a senior center, a dementia center, they are making handwork, or they have people who are willing to sew but don't have the materials. So finding places where sewing projects are ongoing, but they just need materials, is a great way to share the abundance you might have, or the things you might not get to anymore.
Right. Well, and our tastes change as we go, and we
Yes.
collect so much
Yep.
stuff, and it's just, I mean, I don't think any of us can part with fabric. I mean, can consider throwing it away. It's,
We know
but
how
we can't
valuable
use
it
it
is.
all. That's right.
Yes. There's
Yeah,
definitely ways to give it a good home, but where it
right.
will be used.
Thank you so much for sharing those ideas, and also for sharing the reminder to be sure to check with the organization before sending the fabric. I know that thanks to the generosity of many members in our guild, our local quilt guild has said they have enough fabric to make quilts for many, many years, so they're not accepting donations now.
Mhm.
But we've got lots of schools with home ec departments, so that's a really great idea. But always check before you send it. That also brings up another point that I wanted to talk about. Sometimes, despite our very best intentions and our generous hearts, sending a quilt or something we made might not be what is most helpful right now. So I'm thinking in particular of all those people who have lost so much in the devastation following Hurricane Helene. Um,
Yes.
right now, quilts probably aren't what they need. They need money. So in your blog, you shared a lot of good information about sewing and donating after natural disasters. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that's so important because, again, our hearts yearn to like contribute what we, are this offering of love, and they are offerings of love. And there may be a time when that is what's needed, but it might not be the first thing that's needed. And so, especially in a natural disaster. So I would say a little research will help you get the best results for your efforts. And like I would say, I've written a whole post about this, actually, sewing for and donating to charity, particularly natural disasters. So first of all, I would say pace yourself. You don't have to save the world all by yourself all at once. So any little contribution makes a difference. And then I would say donate to a reputable charity. When I first wrote this post a few years ago, someone who lived in New Orleans replied, and she shared their experience after Hurricane Katrina, where they just ended up, people everywhere were just like seeing everything that they'd lost, their homes, all their possessions just gone. And so people just started filling semi trucks with clothes and everything. And they ended up with a disaster after the disaster, which was what to do with all this stuff. So definitely reach out to an organization that's on the ground, that knows what they're doing, that is assessing needs, and start there. And so sometimes the best thing to donate in that situation, especially like an urgent crisis, is money, because that way it's just so much easier to wire money across the country than it is to fill a semi-trailer and drive it across the country. So money can help people buy diapers, food, the really urgent things. And it also goes back into the local community. So it helps the community in general. It's like paying contractors, paying suppliers there, so that it's helping to rebuild the economy for everybody at that time. So money is sometimes the most important thing in a crisis.
Yeah, that is such good advice. And I also want to remind you, if sending money is the best option for what areas need now, and very often it is, there are some creative ways that you can use your talents to get money to send. So for instance, gather your friends and work together to destash your extra fabrics. Then find a parking lot or a driveway and have a fabric sale, and send the money you raised to that worthy cause. Or rather than sending a quilt, raffle it off and send the money that you raised. For example, my friend Laura Petrovich Cheney, who's an artist, was a guest on our Live with Annie in season 2, episode 36, and she makes quilts using wood, most of which has been salvaged from natural disasters. Having lived through the devastation of Hurricane Sandy, Laura said that the events of Hurricane Helene felt all too familiar and life-altering to her. So in response, she is working to turn art into action. So she has reduced the price of a number of her wood quilts, and she will be sending 50% of all of the sales to various relief organizations with the donations made in the collector's name. So you can just go to Laura's website, which is Laura Petrovich Cheney, I believe, and click on Hurricane Helene to see the quilts. And I know Randy has that link, so we can put it up when you can find the information. So Amy, do you have any other ideas for ways that we could use our sewing skills to raise money to donate?
I think that's such a great idea, to find ways to sell things again in our local communities to raise that money to send to a community in crisis is great. Whether it's, I think auctioning off a quilt is a great way, especially that's a great use for the heirloom, like really fancy quilt that you might have made that you don't need anymore. You have more than you need, and somebody who might really value and love that would love to buy that and have it in their home, and then you can use those funds in a really helpful way. So I think those are great suggestions.
Yeah, I often see people in the ByAnnie bag makers group in particular who are making an ultimate travel bag or a double zip gear bag for an auction for an organization that they're involved with. And that's, we all sew lots of stuff and don't probably use all of them. So that's another great idea. So
I think that's a great win-win.
Yeah, for sure. Before we
Yes.
wrap up, what advice would you give to someone who is thinking about starting their first charity sewing project?
I would just go back to keep it simple. It doesn't need to be huge. Again, like a small project like pillowcases, the burrito pillowcases are really easy. So it's a great way to use a fabric stash that's not time intensive. So those are great. Hospitals, there's lots of places that can use things like that. And again, just look in your local community and see what needs are. A lot of times the needs are much simpler than we expect and really doable. And then maybe invite a couple of friends, or maybe your child's class at school, or a neighborhood sewing group, quilt guild, get other people involved. You don't have to do it all on your own. It's a fun way to build a community, and people feel good when they're helping. It helps to put our hands to work when we see needs, and to involve more hands, I think helps. It's just a win-win for everybody that's involved.
That was such encouraging advice, and I find when my hands are busy, my head calms down too. So
yeah,
it really helps you deal with things that are stressful and hard to deal with. So thank you for that. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights and for inspiring others to give back through sewing. If our listeners want more information, if they want to get involved, where do they go?
So my website is www.diaryofaquilter.com, and I have I have a post right near the top right now that's about how to help with sewing for charity, with lists of ideas of causes that need help, places you can donate fabric, excess materials, things like that. So, and thank you so much for sharing that link also in your notes. That I hope it will just provide ways to inspire people that there's lots of different ways to help, and we need all the different ways.
I agree. And you had so much information in there all the way across the board. I was so happy that you were able to join us today and share more about that. And the great thing about, lives like this is they're up there forever. And so people are going to be able to find that information 100 years from now, maybe. So it will be interesting to see how things have changed by then.
Yes. Well, and I just want to say thank you for all that you do to amplify the message of breast cancer every October. I think I just have more and more, as I get older, I have more and more friends going through that experience. And we as women, every one of us knows someone that's been through that. And there's just so many ways we can help. It's a great thing to amplify.
Yeah, my family has been very fortunate. We really don't have a lot of any kind of cancer in our family, but my daughter-in-law's family, they have the BRCA gene, and they have all of that.
Wow.
And it impacts everybody. Last week when Casey did the kickoff and he called the stores that were participating in the SewPINK Sew Along, one of those, her dad had breast cancer. So it's not just women that get it, it's all of us. And just being able to share that information and encourage people to go get those mammograms is really important. So let's see if viewers have any questions for us. Looks like there's just one, and that is Bosom Buddy good for heart surgery patients? So the purpose of Bosom Buddy is to create a little cushion that you can put on your chest so that when you have the seatbelt on, it's not, putting pressure where you've had that surgery. I can't imagine why that wouldn't be helpful who's had heart surgery. I've also seen people use it around here if they've had abdominal surgery. It just really helps to protect those areas and not have that seatbelt pressing in on those so much. So yes, I would think it would be perfect for that. Thank you again, Amy, for joining us today. Thank you for your help making the world a little warmer and brighter, one project at a time. I hope I will see you again soon.
Me too. Thanks, Annie.
All right. Great to see you.
Thanks, everyone.
I hope that you all enjoyed our visit with Amy and that it gave you some ideas for ways that you can make a difference. If you are interested in learning more about sewing for charity or exploring Amy's patterns and tutorials, be sure to visit her blog, Diary of a Quilter. And remember, before we close, I just want to remind you that our SewPINK blog hop is going strong, so be sure to stop in and check it out. You can just go to our website, and right at the top there's a big pink zipper and our big SewPINK logo, and there will be a Sew With Us button at the top that will take you straight to the blog hop, and you can find the calendar. There's a link for that, and you can just click on each of the pictures to see that day's post. Also, remember that we have a special category, added a special category to our monthly photo contest as part of our SewPINK celebration. So during the months of October and November, we're going to have an additional $50 SewPINK award, as well as some $15 coupons for other wonderful SewPINK entrants. And finally, we have joined forces with the Fat Quarter Shop to promote a fundraiser with the goal of raising $20,000 to donate to the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. And we hope you will consider donating generously to this worthwhile cause. Every little bit helps, and we will match every dollar that is raised on the ByAnnie team's SewPINK fundraising page. So when you get to the SewPINK page, you'll see a button that says Donate Funds. Just click on that and it will take you to the SewPINK team. I checked this morning and we were at just under $900. So we need to get that up there. We're going to match, I think, up to 2,000 or 5,000. I can't remember, but the goal is 20,000. So we got a ways to go. Also, be sure to stay tuned at the end of this episode to see video clips of local quilt shops that we featured on social media this week. We are featuring two great shops today: Homestead Quilting and Fabrics in Lakeville, Massachusetts, and Rae-Bon Sewing and Quilting Shop in Fargo, North Dakota. North Dakota, oh, that's hard to say. So each of these shops was the regional winner for their state in both the 2023 and 24 LQS contest. Homestead Quilting and Fabrics in Lakeville, Massachusetts was created with the goal of giving area quilters a place to not only buy quality fabrics and notions, but also to create a deeper sense of community. And this is bolstered by the huge variety of class offerings that they have, with everything from basic quilt making to more advanced piecing and bag making. Nestled in Fargo, North Dakota, Rae-Bon Sewing and Quilt Shop stands out as a beloved cornerstone of their local crafting community. In operation for over 50 years, Rae-Bon has become a haven for sewists of all kinds, and laughter and learning are part of every visit to Rae-Bon. I really enjoyed learning more about both of these shops, and I know you will too, so stay tuned to that. And thank you again to everyone who joined us today. We will be back next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time with another inspiring episode of Live with Annie. As I said earlier, we've had friends from all around who have shared some really great ideas on our SewPINK blog this month, so we are going to highlight them and tell you more about those. You are sure to be inspired. And until then, happy stitching! Hi, I'm Annie of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Today we are visiting Homestead Quilting and Fabric in Lakeville, Massachusetts. the state's winner for the second year in a row of the local quilt shop contest. With well over 1,000 bolts of fabric, the shop is a bright and cheerful respite for local quilters, just what Michelle Medeiros set out to create. Michelle learned to quilt in her high school home ec class and continued the hobby in fits and starts over the years. Often, when her husband was deployed, she found community by connecting with other quilters in the area. When local shops started closing, Michelle recognized the need for someone else to step up, so she jumped at the chance to make a career change and open her own quilt shop. She created Homestead Quilting and Fabrics with the goal to give area quilters a place to not only buy quality fabrics and notions, but also to create a deeper sense of community. This is bolstered by the variety of class offerings, something that many commented on in the local quilt shop contest. While Michelle can be found helping customers in nearly every way, she is joined in the shop by Cheryl, Pat, and Diane. Cheryl is a former Judy Niemeyer certified instructor and a paper piecing expert who shares those skills with students in periodic workshops. Pat teaches machine embroidery and is their baby lock aficionado. Diane can be found teaching a variety of classes. As a fan of quilting history and antique quilts, she's full of knowledge to share. She hosts classes on the basics of quilt making as well as more advanced piecing workshops. Amanda told us about her experience with Homestead fabric and quilting. Michelle and Diane have taken my quilting to a whole other level that I never thought I could get to. The classes they offer are fantastic for any skill level. When we asked Michelle how the local quilt shop contest has affected her shop, she said, "We have been blessed with many new customers who have all said, 'We never knew you were here.' It's been wonderful meeting new people." Finding new shops is always fun for quilters too. If you live in Massachusetts or are visiting the area, be sure to put Homestead Quilting and Fabrics on the list. You'll also want to schedule time to drive around the area, exploring the colonial architecture, the Tom Thumb Museum, as well as the Robbins Museum of Archaeology. Just down the road, you'll find Plymouth with its famous rock and more historical sites along the way. I am so happy to learn more about Homestead Quilting and Fabrics and look forward to visiting them the next time I'm in New England. To find out more about them, visit homesteadquiltingandfabrics.com. And until next time, happy stitching! Hi, I'm Annie with ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Join me for a visit to Rae-Bon Sewing and Quilt Shop in north of Normal, Fargo, North Dakota. In business for over 50 years in the region, this shop has roots. Starting as just a sewing machine dealer, the store expanded over the years to stock everything for the sewist. They have sewing machines, sergers and long arms, fabric, notions, thread, bag making supplies, cross-stitch supplies, everything for hand embroidery, and even a little bit of knitting, crochet, and macrame. Rae-Bon considers itself a modern quilt shop with a dash of traditional. They feature premium quality fabrics from today's hottest designers and manufacturers, including Moda, Robert Kaufman, Ruby Star Society, Free Spirit Fabrics, and more. When walking through their doors, you're sure to find inspiration. Lining their walls and displays are over 100 samples. In addition to quilting, the team loves making purses and bags, and they have a large selection of zippers and purse hardware for anything you can dream up. If handwork is more your speed, check out Rae-Bon's cross-stitch department and full range of Cosmo floss. Beyond selling Baby Lock, Brother, Pfaff, and Husqvarna Viking machines, they've also got you covered on repairs. Rae-Bon provides on-site repair services by a certified technician. Come to them for education and community as well. And be sure to check out their calendar for regular events and classes. Many LQS voters described the joyful experience they have as laughter fills the Rae-Bon store. As Mary said, "This place is magical." Another voter told us about the store's support for local charities, including Jesse's Toy Box, which was started by the grandson of Rae-Bon voter and customer Linda. I love hearing about local community initiatives and support for the local community. It's no wonder that their shop was featured in Quilt Sampler magazine by Better Homes and Gardens as one of the top 10 shops in North America in September of 2022. With all that said, we have to recognize the Rae-Bon team. The owner, Sandy Beneke, bought Rae-Bon in 2010 and has been running it ever since. Before buying the shop, Sandy already had 10-plus years of experience in retail fabric store management as well. She loves being in the quilt shop every day, sharing her passion for quilting and machine embroidery with others. Bringing out the creativity in others, whether it's a beginner just starting out on their first project or a seasoned pro who is finishing a more complex project, is one of her favorite things. Sandy's staff is incredible too. As Sandy said, everyone has their area they excel at, allowing us to be a well-rounded shop that can help with a wide variety of sewing questions, from quilting, bag making, garment sewing, handwork, and sewing machine repair. There are so many things to do in Fargo, so while visiting, be sure to make a day of it. Browse the shop, attend a class, and laugh with the team. Get lunch, and be sure to visit Fargo's other great local shops like Sweet Dreams, Vintage Point, and Unglued. And, assuming you are like many who saved the best for last, join the club and check off North Dakota as your 50th state by taking a photo in the local visitor center. As always, if you live near them or are planning a trip to North Dakota, be sure to stop in to Rae-Bon Sewing and Quilting Shop. Say hi to Sandy and her team from everyone at ByAnnie. Find out more about the store at Rae-Bon.com. That's RAE-BON.com. And until next time, happy stitching!